I want to ask about sort of this viral marketing that's been going on. At least we think it's viral marketing. There's been all over the internet popping up cows and six-fingered men and a whole bunch of other things. Where would you suggest people go for to find out the truth about what's going on Fringe? Which of these sites are real?
The Bush administration.
What?
I think the Bush administration, if you want to find out the truth about what's going on in Fringe.
Beatrice. It's GE. What's the...
Friends.com, Infowars.com.
Yeah, here's the thing. Bob is insane. He's a conspiracy theorist of the group, and so this could be a really funny tangent. I have no idea where it's going to go, but Bob is literally like, almost every time we get together for a writing session, and even last year when we were at Comic-Con, we were working on the pilot script, and every day there's at least one unbelievable conspiracy thing, and by the time you're done, you totally believe what Bob's saying. It's amazing. So Bob knows where to go for. After this is over, you should just talk to Bob, because he'll take you anywhere.
This is a question I think some people have been debating on the internet. The pilot for Fringe was available for downloading even before it was here at Comic-Con. Some people insist, speaking of conspiracy theories, that that was on purpose. Do you want to address that?
No, definitely not on purpose.
This is a show, I've already seen on some of the Fringe sites, of which there are many already. Spoilers for episode 3. Is it a double-edged sword? On the one hand, it sort of probably pisses you off that people are already getting your plot lines out there. On the other hand, it's kind of cool that people care enough that they're already digging up the truth.
Well, if it were a movie, obviously it would be a disaster that it got out. But the fact that it's a show, at least the good news is it's all about spreading the word, people feeling familiar with it, and hopefully when people see it, want to come back and you'll see the next episode. But the truth is that the episode that went out wasn't finished. It didn't have the final cut. There was some scenes missing. There were things that could be shot. The visual effects weren't done. The music wasn't there. So we would not have sent out something that was so far away, in some ways from what we wanted people to see. But we're thrilled that the response so far has been as positive as it has, and I think that the stories that actually continue to follow the pilot, I think actually are better and stronger in terms of focusing. The pilot had a lot of. It was burdened by kind of what it had to do in a way, and I feel like now the episodes are about the characters in the situations that we originally got excited about, as opposed to setting it up in the premise pilot.
So do you want to give us any hint about some of those
No.
possible?
No.
And
I do think it's possible that JJ did leak the pilot. I don't know. I really don't know.
See what I'm saying? Bob is just...
It's possible.
Nothing's...
The debate will continue. I want to ask the actors, starting with Anna, why don't you describe for all of us how you see your characters after playing them for a couple of episodes now, getting into it. How would you describe where they are and what you're trying to bring to them? Anna?
I think Olivia, and after the pilot, ends up facing this whole world that she really didn't think existed. And I think she is one of those people, and what I'm starting to find more, that can't kind of turn a blind eye to things. She takes responsibility for things where other people don't. And I think that's, a blessing and a curse for her. She's trudging her way through, but then actually quite enjoys it because I don't know. That's the fun thing about doing television too, is that you get to discover and explore, and things shift and mold, and you get little bits and pieces each week.
Okay. The other JJ?
JJB.
Exactly.
Well,
Terminator JJ, go on.
Peter is much the same way, actually. Peter is he's a man in flux and a character, I think, that is still being discovered as we go forward, because there's a lot of pieces that have been laid in that haven't been paid off in the only 2 episodes that we've done that hint or intimate that there's a whole other world and a side of this man that we don't know yet, and that I don't know yet, but I'm excited to find out.
Mr. Noble?
I think by necessity, Joe, that probably the pilot reveals more about Dr. Walter Bishop than the other characters. So we have this fascinating thing built about this eccentric genius who's been in a mental asylum for 17 years, and by the descriptions of the other characters, done some atrocious things, and is obviously a rather poor father. So that's a great grounding for a character. Also, the fact he's probably been pumped full of drugs for the last 17 years and had electric shocks on a daily basis. So he's really complex, but he does, and therefore he has short-term memory loss. But he does recall these extraordinary things, these extraordinary experiments he did. And so the journey of discovery for that character is his own memory going back, remembering things that are coming back in the pattern, which is referred to. But also, you see, there's a fascinating thing I perhaps like as much about it, is that there's this father-son relationship. So Josh plays my estranged son, and there's this beautiful growth, and the writers are already giving it. Just every now and again, they'll give us a moment, just a touch, where the two men will connect, or I will need him, and it's already out in the pilot. But I said to him one stage, please don't send me back, please don't send me back. And it's kind of gorgeous, the vulnerability of the father. So, and I'm down the track, there's going to be a relationship evolving with Olivia. At this stage, we've just touched on it. She describes him as a horrible man or something, I think, in the pilot. But that will also evolve. So, from my point of view, it's an amazingly complex and satisfying caricature.
Was there a part of you that wanted to keep the beard?
To keep what?
The beard.
Oh, the beard? No. I enjoyed chopping it off.
We're going to start asking questions in about 5 minutes, so if you want to start lining up, that'd be great. I'm not asking any Star Trek or Transformers questions, but feel free if you'd like to. I will ask one pacey question, though, to Mr. Jackson. Because I've seen some fan sites ask this. In your mind, Pacey and Joey, right now, what up? Would they still be together? Yes, I just asked that.
Yeah, there'd be a couple kids into it, living in a little shack on the side of Cape Side somewhere. I have no idea. I haven't really put too much time into thinking about that, I've got to be honest.
I've just lost whatever journalistic credibility I might have had. So. All right. There's been rumors of a French comic book, has there not, JJ?
Indeed.
And what's the latest on that?
It's pretty cool. One of the things we thought would be fun to do would be to tell some stories about the characters and kind of create sort of almost like a peripheral world. So this idea came up. Bryan, if you want to talk about it too.
Well, what? If Bob talks about it, it's not real. It's a conspiracy. We've been putting it together. We have a whole team of people who've been writing about it. We've actually been talking about the history of Walter and William Bell, which we reference a lot in the pilot. But all that will come to fruition in the show. We start talking about the history of it, and setting it up in the backstory through the comic book. And I think it's something we haven't done before. We've talked about doing it on Alias. We talked about doing it on Lost. So this feels like the first proper show where it allows us to create a comic book that really is organic to the show.
For those of you who are still awake, I'm just kidding. Fantastic. That was excellent. I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Joking. Awesome. The thing that also is great about obviously doing comics, when you do TV, there are certain things you can't do in television just because of budget, but it basically costs the same amount of money to do a frame of two guys talking in a room as it is to do a massive tsunami. So the fun of doing a comic book is that it lets you go beyond certainly what the constraints are, practically speaking. But it'll be a fun book.
Okay. And this whole campaign for Imagine the Impossibilities, the scavenger hunt, anything you'd like to say about that? Or again, no? People have said that there are things that we should say, but I feel like I'd rather not. It's like stuff that will just, things about like getting clues outside when you leave, and I sort of feel like that to ever tell someone where you can find a clue is sort of the opposite of a fun game. It's like, and there's a clue right there. It's like, don't tell me that's a clue. Let me feel, there are things we're doing in the show that I think are kind of fun. Like, I don't know if you know, like the old, Hirschfeld comics, that were not comics, but drawings that were in New York Times used to have, and he would hide Nina, his daughter's name, in the images, and it would say right next to his name a number, and that's how many Ninas were in the picture.